Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jeff with Mind Body Cheer, back with my fifth video in this series on mental blocks. Today, I want to talk to you all about irrational beliefs or negative beliefs. These are the little voices that we hear in our head that are sometimes quiet, the little gremlins that sometimes are really loud. They're the things or the voices that say, you can't do it. Or those of you who are experiencing a mental block, they're the little gremlins that say inside your head, what's wrong with you? You just did it. It's not that hard. You're a failure. Why are you so mental? Or those of you who experience performance anxiety, it's that voice that's going to say in the warm-up room, see, you just fell. I knew you couldn't do it. You're a failure. You're never going to be able to hit this on the performance floor. Why even try? To be plagued with these irrational beliefs or negative beliefs are not helpful to you performing as well as you possibly could. I want you to realize that usually these irrational beliefs stem from the idea that you or a person can be perfect. The idea of perfection is false. No one can ever be perfect. So having these irrational beliefs means that you feel like there is some perfection that can be attained. Now, here's the problem with believing that perfection is something that can be attained. You're always going to be disappointed. Imagine living in a world where you're constantly upset and disappointed for not being good enough. Do you know what that sounds like? That sounds like those gremlins in your head that constantly tell you that you're not good enough, that you're disappointing your coach, that you're never going to be able to do it. To constantly be worrying about failing, not being perfect, to constantly be worried about what other people think of you, you're not helping yourself perform as well as you possibly could. So I want to offer you all, those of you who experience these gremlins in your head, a few strategies that hopefully can help you stop these automatic thoughts. Because I know what a lot of you are thinking. Jeff, they just pop into my head. I have no control over them. At first, you're right. You don't have control because they are oftentimes automatic. But they're trained thoughts. When you all were 3, did you have these negative thoughts in your head? Most of you are probably like, I don't remember. Because you didn't. You've learned to motivate yourself with these negative beliefs. Unfortunately, thinking in this way is causing performance anxiety, and it's causing you all to experience mental blocks. Use this as an example. Have you had a mental block, but you've gotten over it and started to tumble again, only to find yourself in a mental block 2 months later? Almost every single time I've talked to an athlete, the cause of the re-experiencing of a mental block are these irrational or negative beliefs. The athlete finds themselves tumbling, feeling good about themselves, but just one day they're not focused. One day they had struggles with their standing tuck. That one day causes just enough room for those negative voices to come in and start screaming in the athlete's head. You can probably guess what happens during the next week. The athlete struggles, the voices get louder, eventually causing a mental block. If you are motivated and you are trying to overcome these irrational beliefs because you realize it's not helpful, let me give you some strategies. Go ahead and get a pen and piece of paper. The first strategy I would have you all do is journal. And what I want you to journal is, when do these negative voices happen most often? At cheer practice, during your tumbling private, with a particular coach, on your drive home when you're with your parents. Maybe it's the night before a competition. Maybe they're loudest in the warm-up room. Maybe they're loudest just before you go on the floor or while you're competing. You're noticing you have this constant narrator that's telling you everything you do wrong. Once you notice when your gremlin voices are loudest, you can then ask yourself these 3 questions later on. Was that thought true? Or maybe even in the moment, let's say you're at practice, is this true? That I'm always a failure? Well, start thinking of all the times where you haven't been a failure. At first, it might be really hard, But when you start writing it down, you're going to notice that you're going to be able to automatically think of all the times you've been successful. The next question you ask yourself is this thought logical? Is it logical for someone to be a failure? When somebody is working through something and when they're trying their hardest, is it true that they're a failure? My guess is that if any of your friends call themselves a failure, you would tell them you're not a failure. My question to you is, then why are you calling yourself a failure? The last question that I would like you to journal is this thought helpful? Is it really helping you to say, I'm a failure? My guess is you're going to say no. When you realize that these thoughts are not helpful and you're motivated to change, you're going to notice that your brain is going to start causing more of a pause before these negative voices come in. Some of you may even recognize that you have a more positive voice come in your head that reminds you of all the times you've been successful. Now realize that all of this is a lot easier said than done. So if you notice that you're still struggling with these negative voices or irrational beliefs that are causing you to re-experience a mental block or cause you to experience more performance anxiety, please feel free to reach out to me at mindbodycheer@gmail.com. I would love to help you in any way possible. Until next time, everybody, be well.